Hello and welcome. I'm so glad you could be here with me tonight. Settle in and let's get ready for another journey into the past. Tonight we are going to travel back to the dawn of the 19th century, to a time of great wooden ships and iron men. But we're not just going to learn about the age of sail. We're going to experience it. Together, we will step into the sea-worn boots of a Royal Navy captain and discover, from the inside, why it was one of the most demanding jobs in all of history. We often think of these figures as heroic, their lives filled with adventure on the high seas. And while there was adventure, there was also a burden, a solitude, and a reality so stark that it's almost impossible for us to imagine. That is the story we will explore tonight. As always, if you enjoy these journeys into the past, taking a moment to like or subscribe makes a huge difference. It's deeply appreciated. And I truly love to see where these stories are reaching, how they find their way to you in your part of the world. So if you feel inclined, feel free to leave a comment and let me know where in the world you're listening from tonight. It's always a quiet joy to read through them and see our small community here, sharing this quiet space together. And now, let's leave the present day behind. Let all of that fade away. Find your comfortable space. Whether you're settling into bed or a favorite chair, just allow yourself to sink into that comfort. Take a slow, deep breath in, filling your lungs with calm. And as you exhale, feel the tension of your day begin to soften. Let your shoulders relax. Let your jaw unclench. Give your mind permission to quiet down, to let your thoughts begin to drift like little boats on a calm lake. Because we are preparing to journey back in time, we are leaving this world for another. Congratulations, you've just woken up, but this is not your room. This is not your time. A pale, gray light, the kind that comes just before the dawn, filters through a row of tall stern windows behind you. It's just enough light to trace the delicate, gilded carvings on the painted wall, faint lines of gold in the gloom. The air you breathe in is cold, so cold it feels damp in your lungs, and it carries a scent you've only ever read about. A deep, pervasive smell of damp wood, of sticky, sharp tar, and the clean, biting sting of salt. You shift, and you realize you are not lying in a soft bed. You are in a narrow, built-in cot, the mattress thin and unforgiving beneath you, filled with what feels like coarse horsehair. And with every slow, rhythmic roll of the world around you, the wooden frame of the cot groans. A low, constant complaint that seems to vibrate right through your bones. This constant motion, this deep sound is the first clue to your new reality. This is the captain's great cabin, aboard a ship of the line, a floating fortress of wood and cannon. You are somewhere in the vast, empty, gray expanse of the Atlantic Ocean. And this cabin, this ship, this entire world of chilling air and groaning wood, it is yours. As your mind struggles to catch up to your senses, as you try to piece together this impossible new reality, a shiver runs through you that has nothing to do with the cold. It's the feeling of immense, crushing weight settling upon your shoulders. Because you understand, in a sudden, gut-wrenching moment, that outside this cabin, more than 500 souls are relying on you. On your knowledge, your nerve, your decisions. You don't feel like a captain. You feel like an imposter, a child playing dress-up in the most dangerous game imaginable. And the day has not yet even begun. Our journey today will be to live this single day, together. To feel the weight of this command, from this first cold awakening to the lonely vigil of the coming night. Before you can even fully process the chill in the air or the ache in your bones from the thin mattress, a thought cuts through the fog of your disorientation. A duty. The duty. It is a thought so sharp and absolute it feels like a physical thing, pulling you to your feet. Your bare soles meet the cold, bare wood of the deck, and you feel the slow, deep roll of the ship through the very soles of your feet. Your eyes are drawn not to the stern windows, not to the cabin door, but to a set of handsome mahogany boxes, secured to a shelf in the corner as if they are the most precious treasure on this entire ship. And You realize with a cold, sinking feeling, they are. You approach them with a hesitation that feels shameful. These are the marine chronometers. There are 3 of them, a trinity of hope and terror. You lift the polished lid of the first box. Inside, nestled in soft green felt, the chronometer floats. It is a masterpiece of gleaming brass and flawless glass, suspended on a gimbal, a clever system of interlocking rings designed to keep it perfectly level, perfectly isolated from the constant unforgiving motion of the sea. It is a bubble of stillness in a world of chaos. These are not just clocks. They are the ship's only link to sanity, to survival, to your very position on the planet. Out here, on this endless expanse of water, you can find your latitude easily. Enough. A simple measurement of the sun's height at noon can tell you how far north or south you are. But longitude, your position east or west on the vast, featureless map of the ocean, that is a mystery solved only by time. If you know the precise time in Greenwich, England, and you can determine your own local time from the sun, the difference between them tells you exactly where you are. These ticking hearts of brass and steel, they hold Greenwich time. They are a thread of certainty stretching thousands of miles back home. And if that thread breaks, if they stop or lose even a few seconds a day, you are truly lost, adrift, sailing toward starvation or a coastline that appears out of the fog when it is already too late. You take up the small, star-shaped key. Its brass feels cold and heavy against your clammy skin. Your hand, you notice, with a flash of private anger, has a slight tremor. You ball it into a fist, then open it again, forcing it steady. You insert the key into the small hole on the face of the first chronometer. The click it makes is terrifyingly loud in the quiet cabin. You begin to turn slowly, gently, feeling the tension of the mainspring build beneath your fingers. Not too much, never too much. You count the half turns, your lips moving silently. 1, 2, 3. The same number every single morning, without fail. You finish with the second, then the third, your breath held the entire time. You close the polished lids with a reverence you might give to a holy relic. The job is done. A small wave of relief washes over you, so faint it's almost immediately swallowed by the vast ocean of your anxiety, because the task is never truly over. Now you must simply trust in the genius of the clockmaker, trust in the perfection of the gears and jewels. You can hear them now, their quiet, steady rhythm filling the cabin. Tick, tock, tick. To eat, it is the sound of your ship's fragile life, the sound of every second counting, the sound of a responsibility you can never ever set down. The steady ticking of the chronometers, the sound of your immense responsibility, is soon joined by a soft, respectful knock at your cabin door. Before you can even call out, the door opens and your steward enters, moving with a quiet efficiency that speaks of long practice. He carries a simple ceramic basin and a matching pitcher, setting them down on a small washstand. He pours the water, and you notice there is no steam, not even a hint of it. He has brought you a basin of cold seawater drawn straight from the ocean that surrounds you. This is the only bath you will have. You dip your hands into the basin, and the icy shock of it steals your breath, a jolt that is more effective than any coffee. The salt stings the small cuts on your hands, a constant reminder of where you are. As you splash the frigid water on your face, you think of the simple luxuries you once took for granted. Hot water from a tap, soap that lathers into a rich foam, a soft, clean towel. Such things are a distant memory now, a dream from another life. Here there is only the bite of salt and the rough scrape of a coarse linen towel, and there is no real privacy. Your steward stands by, a silent, impassive shadow, ready to hand you the towel or assist with your coat. Your life is no longer your own, not even in these first, most personal moments of the day. Once you are dry, the main ritual begins. The steward lays out your clothes, and you begin the slow process of dressing. This is not simply about getting ready for the day. It is about constructing a different person. It is an act of transformation. First, the clean linen shirt, its fabric starchy and slightly scratchy against your skin. Then the breeches and stockings pulled tight, forcing a posture of rigid formality. You feel your own comfortable modern self begin to recede with each layer. You are building the captain from the outside in. The waistcoat is next, buttoned. High up your chest, its stiffness a constant pressure, a reminder to stand straight, to betray no weakness. And then the centerpiece of the entire illusion, the heavy wool uniform coat. The steward holds it for you, and as you slide your arms into it, you feel its incredible weight settle on your shoulders. It is a physical burden before it is a symbolic one. The dark blue wool is thick and unforgiving. The gold lace on the cuffs and collar feels both magnificent and gaudy. It feels less like clothing and more like a theatrical costume, designed to create an illusion of command, a character for you to play. The final piece is the leather sword belt, which you buckle around your waist. The weight of the sword itself, hanging heavy at your hip, is a constant cold presence. It is a tool of your authority, a symbol of the violence you must be prepared to command at a moment's notice. With each button fastened, with each layer you add, the person who woke up in this cot, the person who feels like an imposter, is buried a little deeper. Now fully dressed, you turn to face your reflection. There is no large, clear mirror here. There is only a small, hand-sized piece of polished steel screwed to the wall. Its surface is dim, slightly distorted. You lean. In studying the image it shows you, it is your face, but also not. The high, stiff collar of the uniform frames it, changes its character entirely. You try to arrange your features into an expression of authority, of unwavering confidence. You raise your chin. You try to harden your eyes. But in the dim, wavering light from the stern windows, all you can see is the flicker of fear behind them. You see a stranger's face staring back at you, a man wearing a mask that feels both heavy and fragile, an actor about to step onto a stage, terrified he will forget his lines. It will have to do. The performance must begin. Taking a slow, steadying breath, a breath that belongs not to you, but to the captain you have become. You turn from the mirror, ready to face the world outside your door. You place your hand on the cool brass handle of the heavy cabin door. The face you saw in the polished steel mirror, that stranger's face, is the one you now wear. You take one last quiet breath, the breath of the man you were, and you pull the door open, stepping out into the morning. The world explodes. After the dim, muffled quiet of your cabin, the sensory blast of the quarterdeck is overwhelming. The morning sun is dazzlingly bright, glinting off the sea and the polished brass of the ship's fittings, forcing you to squint. The air is alive with sound, a cacophony of structured noise. You hear the sharp command of a junior officer, the rhythmic, unified grunt of men hauling on a line, the constant, deep-throated creak of the ship's massive timbers as they flex against the sea. High above you, the heavy canvas of the ensign gives a sharp, clean snap in the wind. And the wind itself is a living thing here, a constant pressure on your face, carrying with it a fine, damp mist of salt spray that you can taste on your lips. And then it happens. A change. It's not a sudden silence. The wind and the sea do not fall silent, but the human sounds, they falter. The chanting of the sailors trails off. The shouted conversations die. A ripple of awareness spreads across the deck, an invisible wave that follows your appearance. And you feel it. You feel the weight of hundreds of pairs of eyes turning towards you. A physical pressure on your skin. A sea of faces, young and old, weathered and smooth, hardened and hopeful, all fixed on you. The men stop what they are doing, their hands paused on ropes and tools, waiting, judging. A tall figure detaches himself from near the ship's wheel and strides towards you. Your first lieutenant. His salute is perfect, a crisp, economic motion that you try to return with equal confidence. He begins his morning report, his voice clear and strong, a clipped, formal litany of facts and figures spoken in the strange, abbreviated language of the sea. All hands present and accounted for, sir. Wind is west by southwest, making 6 knots. Log shows 140 miles since noon yesterday. All sails set and drawing well. No issues to report from the night watch. You nod slowly, your expression neutral, as if you understand every nuance of his report. But inside, your mind is screaming. What does that mean? Is 6 knots good? What should I be looking for? Your gaze lifts past him, trying to look thoughtful, knowledgeable. You look upwards, following the towering pillar of the mainmast as it soars into the sky. A tree trunk of impossible height. A forest of masts. A dizzying, intricate web of ropes and rigging stretching between them. A system so complex you fear you will never, ever understand it. You look at the men. The raw-boned sailors with faces like carved wood and hands like worn leather. The ramrod straight Marines in their red coats, a splash of formal color amidst the tar-stained canvas and weathered oak. The boys, so many boys. Their faces still soft, scrambling high in the rigging with a terrifying lack of fear. They are all your responsibility. Their lives are in your hands. The first lieutenant has finished speaking. He is standing before you, patiently waiting. For what? An acknowledgement? A new command? The silence stretches. Your mind is a perfect blank emptiness. Your throat is dry. This is it. The performance. You clear your throat, praying your voice will not crack, and you give the simple rehearsed order you decided on last night, the safest words you could think of. Very good, Mr. Howard. Carry on. Your voice. It sounds thin and reedy in the so vast open air, almost stolen by the wind the moment it leaves your lips. It doesn't sound like the voice of a captain, but it is your voice, and you have spoken. The lieutenant shows no reaction. He simply says, "Aye, sir," salutes again, turns on his heel, and strides away to resume his duties. The spell is broken. The human sounds of the ship slowly swell back to their former volume. The men turn back to their tasks. You have passed the first terrifying test of the day. You have not been found out. Not yet. You stand there for a moment longer, feeling the salt spray on your face, establishing your presence before you can retreat to the quiet solitude of your cabin, and to the written record of this world you must now command. You close the heavy cabin door behind you, and the world of wind and shouts is instantly muffled, replaced by the familiar, intimate symphony of your solitude. The groan of the timbers, the gentle slosh of water against the hull, and the steady ticking of the chronometers. The public performance is over, for now. The private work must begin. You move to your desk where the ship's logbook lies open, waiting for you. It's a heavy, leather-bound volume, its pages thick and slightly stiff from the sea-damp air. You run your fingers over the entries from the night watch. The officer on duty has a neat, controlled hand, a spidery script that lists the mundane and the vital with equal, dispassionate clarity. Changes in wind speed and direction, notations about adjusting the sails to catch the shifting breeze. A remark about the sea state. Course held steady. Sighted a shoal of porpoises at the start of the mid-watch. Replaced a chafed line on the fore-topsail brace. It seems so simple, so routine. But you know this is more than just a diary of the ship. It is an inescapable record. It is a legal document, a witness that never forgets. Should disaster strike, should the ship be lost or an officer be challenged, this book, if it survived, would be the primary evidence. Every decision, every observation is etched here forever, to be scrutinized by men in comfortable, dry offices thousands of miles away, men who will never feel the salt spray or the biting cold of the night watch. You scan the neat columns of figures, the concise descriptions, and a familiar anxiety gnaws at you. What did they miss? What small detail, unnoticed in the dark, might grow into a problem by midday? What subtle signs are you missing now, in the light of the new morning? The logbook tells you where you have been, but what about where you are going? What about the hours to come? You gently close the cover of the logbook and turn your attention to another of the cabin's sacred objects. Hanging on the bulkhead is the marine barometer, It is a long, elegant instrument of polished dark wood and gleaming glass, with a brass dial at its bay. You move to the stern windows, taking the barometer's secret knowledge with you, as you look out at the endless expanse of sea and sky. The sky is still mostly clear, a pale, washed-out blue. But now, you see things you might have missed before. A faint hazy ring around the sun, a certain softness to the edges of the few distant clouds, as if they are beginning to fray. The deep rhythmic swell of the ocean beneath you feels heavier, more deliberate. This is your true foe, and your true master. Not the enemy ships you might hunt, but the weather. An unpredictable, impossibly powerful force that governs every moment of your existence, that can turn from peaceful calm to murderous rage with little warning. You are not just a captain of a ship, you are a student of the sky. Your primary task is this constant, anxious effort of reading the face of the sky, and praying you have understood its silent language correctly. This new information about the ship's status hangs in the air, a quiet question about what else might be changing. What other fragile systems on board need your attention? As the cabin door clicks shut behind the surgeon, you are left alone with the silence and the faint, lingering smell of sickness that seems to have seeped into the very wood of the ship. You stand there for a moment, the somber weight of the surgeon's report settling upon you. This invisible enemy, this creeping decay. It feels far more real and threatening than any distant warship. The thought sours what little appetite they might have had. But the ship's routine is a relentless machine, and it waits for no man, not even the captain. Just as you are contemplating the fragility of the men below decks, your steward reappears, this time carrying a simple tray. He clears away the surgeon's empty cup and sets your breakfast before you on the large cabin table, a table that could easily seat 8. But there is only one place set. You always eat alone. The meal is the best the ship can offer. A piece of salted ham, a ship's biscuit that is slightly less likely to break your teeth than the ones given to the crew, and a mug of hot, dark liquid that might be called coffee. It is sustenance, nothing more. You sit down in your heavy chair at the head of the empty table. This great cabin, with its stern windows looking out onto the endless ocean and its faint gilded carvings on the walls, is your privilege. But in mornings like this, it feels like your prison, a gilded cage. And as you begin to eat, you hear it, a faint sound coming through the forward bulkhead of the cabin. It's the sound of other men's voices, a low murmur of conversation, punctuated by a sudden hearty laugh that is quickly muffled. It's the sound of your officers, taking their breakfast together in the wardroom, just a few feet away. The sound is a physical pang in your chest, a sharp, sudden reminder of what you have lost, or what you have been forced to give up for this command. The simple joy of sharing a meal, of trading stories, of easy camaraderie. You know you cannot join them. You are the captain. You must remain separate, aloof, an almost mythical figure. To be their friend would be to compromise your authority, to blur the lines of command that keep this wooden world from descending into chaos. How could you order a man you shared a joke with this morning to lead a boarding party this afternoon, a party from which he might not return? How could you sit in judgment of a man whose personal struggles you know intimately? The mask of command requires distance. This wall of silence between you and them is a necessary tool of your trade, but the knowledge of its necessity doesn't make the wall any less cold or any less real. You take a bite of the biscuit. It is dry and hard, and you realize it has no taste. Or perhaps what you are tasting is solitude itself. You look around the grand, empty cabin, listening to the ghost of conversation from the next room, and you understand that the greatest dangers of this life may not be enemy cannon or the fury of a storm. It may be this profound, unending quiet. In a world teeming with 500 souls, you are the most alone. This, you suspect, may be the heaviest burden of all. With the end of this solitary ritual, the morning routine is complete. Your focus must now shift outward, from the state of your own mind to the state of your ship. You push the empty plate away and rise from the table. The lonely quiet of the cabin feels heavy now, oppressive. It is time to return to the world of light and air, not for a performance this time, but for a purpose. The morning's solitary rituals are done. Now begins the meticulous, unending task of inspection. You must know the state of your ship as well as you know the state of your own. Mind, perhaps even better. You step out once more onto the quarterdeck. The sun is higher now, its light less gentle, its warmth more present on your skin. The ship feels busy, alive with the thrum of its morning work. This time the men do not stop. They are used to your presence now. They offer a respectful nod, or a tip of the hat as you pass, but their hands do not cease their work, polishing brass, mending lines, scrubbing the deck. This is exactly as it should be. The ship is a machine, and you are its chief engineer observing its function. Your slow, deliberate walk takes you the length of the main deck. You run your hand along the ship's rail, feeling the familiar texture of the salt-cured wood, worn smooth by the hands of countless sailors. Your gaze is sharp, constantly scanning, looking for anything out of place. A rope that is beginning to fray, a spot of rust on an iron fitting, a block that is not running freely. Your ship's life depends on 1,000 such small details. You pause by one of the great guns, a massive 32-pounder cannon. You place your palm flat against its barrel. The black iron is cool to the touch, despite the morning sun. It is a solid, unyielding thing of immense power. The narrator gently describes the sheer, brutal force this weapon represents, the chaos of its firing, the thunderous roar, the choking black smoke, the recoil that could shatter a man's bones. But now, it is quiet. It sits lashed securely. To the deck, a sleeping giant. You look down the row of cannons lining the deck, 24 sleeping giants on this side alone. You are in command of a floating fortress, a fragile shell of wood designed for the sole purpose of delivering incredible violence. The contrast between its current, peaceful state and its violent potential is a thought that never truly leaves. Your inspection continues. You observe the stoic Marines standing guard near your cabin door. Their red coats are immaculate, their muskets held in precisely the same way. Their rigid, predictable discipline is a world away from the fluid, almost chaotic choreography of the sailors at work around them. Yet both are essential. The sailors are the lifeblood of the ship. The Marines are the bone and sinew that hold it all together with unflinching order. You reach the bow of the ship and turn, looking back at the world you command. The clean, holy-stoned decks, the neat coils of rope, the disciplined movement, the crew. It is a world of order, carved out of the chaos of the sea. For a moment you feel a flicker of pride. Then you look out at the horizon, at the endless, empty circle of water meeting sky. And you are reminded of how small this fortress truly is, how isolated. It is a single, fragile bubble of human endeavor, and you are responsible for keeping it afloat, for keeping it ready. Your gaze, having scanned the length of the deck, naturally, lifts upwards to the towering masts and the source of all your motion. You stand near the base of the mainmast, the thickest of the 3 towering pillars of wood that form the ship's spine. You tilt your head back and you look up. It is a dizzying sight, a geometric marvel of impossible complexity. Against the vast pale canvas of the sky, you see a dense, overlapping web of thick ropes, thin lines, heavy wooden spars, and immense, billowing sails. To your modern eyes, it's an overwhelming chaos, a 3-dimensional scribble of black and white. But you know that it is not chaos. It is a language. A precise, intricate language of physics and engineering, spoken by men who have spent their entire lives learning its grammar. You try to follow a single line with your eyes, to trace it from the deck upwards into the maze, but you lose it almost immediately as it crosses and weaves with a dozen others. It is like trying to follow a single thread in a giant, chaotic spider's web. The sheer amount of information, of detailed, specific knowledge required to understand this system is staggering. You feel a familiar wave of anxiety, the cold, touch of the imposter on your shoulder. How can you command a world whose language you cannot even begin to read? You force yourself to simplify, to focus. You look not at the web, but at a single massive sail. The main course, the lowest and largest sheet of canvas on the mast. You can see how it hangs from the yard, the thick wooden spar that crosses the mast. You can see the heavy ropes, the sheets and tacks at its corners that lead down to the deck, where they are secured to thick iron pins. You begin to see a glimmer of the logic. Those ropes, they control the angle of the sail, trimming it to catch the wind just so. You can feel the result of that logic in the very deck beneath your feet. A steady forward momentum, a quiet surge of power. This whole towering construction, it is the engine of your world. A silent engine powered by an invisible force. The sails are the lungs of the ship, breathing in the wind and exhaling motion. You hear the deep, resonant creak of the mast as it takes the strain, a sound like a giant groaning in its sleep. You hear the sharp percussive snap of canvas high above as a gust of wind fills a sail more fully. You hear the low, humming music of the wind itself as it vibrates through the taut rigging. It is a symphony of immense harnessed power. For a moment you are filled with a profound sense of awe. Awe for the ingenuity of the minds that designed this beautiful, complex machine. And awe for the sailors who understand it instinctively, who can climb into that dizzying web in the dark in a storm, and know precisely which line to pull, which knot to tie. They do not see chaos when they look up. They see a sentence, a paragraph, a story they can read perfectly. You, their captain, see only the beautiful, intimidating cover of a book written in a language you have yet to learn. The feeling is humbling, and it solidifies your resolve to understand. But for now, your inspection must continue. From the open air and the awesome power above, you must now turn your attention downward, into the belly of the beast. Your inspection turns from the world of air and light to the world of shadows. You approach a wide hatchway in the deck, a square of darkness from which a steep ladder descends into the deck below. An officer holds the hatch open for you, and as you turn and begin your careful descent, the fresh, clean salt air is cut off, as if by a closing door. You are entering another world entirely. The transition is jarring. Your eyes, accustomed to the bright sun, struggle to adjust to the gloom. The only light here comes from the small square gun ports that pierce the side. The ship, casting shifting rectangles of daylight onto the deck, illuminating swirling dust motes in the air. The sounds are different too. The sharp snap of canvas is gone, replaced by a muffled, lower-pitched symphony of creaks and groans. The ship's voice is deeper, more intimate down here. And then there is the smell. It hits you with a physical presence. It is the dense, thick smell of humanity, the unmistakable odor of hundreds of unwashed bodies, mixed with the dampness of the wood, the lingering scent of stale food, the sharp tang of tar, and a faint sour undertone rising from the bilge far below. You are breathing borrowed air, heavy with the lives of all the men who inhabit this space. You have to duck your head as you walk. The ceiling, the underside of the deck you were just standing on, is crushingly low, crisscrossed with massive wooden beams. It feels less like a room and more like a cave, a cramped space carved out of solid wood. Lining the walls are the ship's teeth, the rows of great guns, their immense black barrels dominating everything, a constant menacing presence. This is a place of work, a weapon of war, but it is also a home. Between the cannons you see the sailors' messes. These are nothing more than simple wooden tables hanging on ropes from the beams above, where small groups of men eat their meals. And packed in everywhere, in every available space, you see the tightly rolled and stowed hammocks. You try to imagine this space at night, a city of hammocks slung hook to hook, bodies packed so tightly that a man can barely turn over without bumping into his neighbor. You try to imagine the snoring, the coughing, the smell, the utter lack of privacy or personal space. A wave of claustrophobia washes over you, a powerful urge to turn and climb back up the ladder into the clean air and open sky. You think of your own spacious cabin, Your solitude that felt like a burden only an hour ago. Now that solitude feels like an unimaginable luxury. You look at the cramped, dark, stifling world around you, and you feel a profound, aching empathy for the men who call this home, who endure these conditions day after day with a resilience you find almost incomprehensible. This is their reality, and as their captain, it must be yours to understand. The smells of stale food and cooking from somewhere further down the deck draw your attention, reminding you that your inspection of this lower world has only just begun. You move forward along the crowded gun deck, drawn by a scent that manages to cut through the general thickness of the air. It is the smell of food cooking, though it is not a smell you would find appetizing. It is the heavy, greasy smell of boiling salted meat, a scent that will soon permeate the entire ship as the men prepare for their midday meal. You follow the smell to its source, the galley. It is not so much a room as a small, designated space, its floor lined with brick to protect the wooden deck from the heat of the fire. Here, in the intense, radiating heat of a coal-burning stove, the ship's cook works his magic. He is a large man, his face perpetually flushed and beaded with sweat, his apron stained with the evidence of 1,000 monotonous meals. He nods respectfully as you approach, but his hands never stop moving, stirring a massive copper cauldron with a paddle-sized spoon. You glance into the cauldron and see the gray, unappetizing chunks of salt beef churning in the boiling water. This, along with oatmeal and ship's biscuit, is the heart of the naval diet, the fuel that keeps this floating world running. You give a nod of approval you do not feel and move on, leaving the oppressive heat behind. Your next stop is the storerooms, and the transition is another sensory shock. You descend one more ladder, and the heat of the galley is instantly replaced by a deep cellar-like cool. The air down here is still and smells of dry dust, burlap, and the faint briny scent of preserved meat. This is the ship's pantry, its stomach. Lantern light casts long, dancing shadows over a landscape of barrels and sacks stacked high. Your first lieutenant, who has accompanied you on this part of the tour, points to different sections. That stack of barrels holds the salted pork and beef. Those sacks contain the dried peas and oatmeal. And those casks, the most precious of all, contain the ship's supply of fresh water. You look at the rows upon rows of identical casks, and you see them not as containers of water, but as hourglasses. Each one that is emptied is a measure of time running out. You are adrift on an ocean of undrinkable water, and your survival is measured in the contents of these barrels. It is a constant, quiet, and deeply anxious arithmetic of survival. You move to a set of large bins that hold the ship's biscuit, also known as hardtack. You reach in and take one. It feels less like food and more like a flat gray stone in your hand. It is incredibly dense and hard, a simple unleavened brick of flour, water, and salt, baked until it has a shelf life of years. This is the crew's bread, wooden bread. You turn it over in your hand, imagining trying to bite into it. You know that to make it even remotely edible, the men must soak it in their grog or soup, or break it into pieces with a heavy object. You tap it against a barrel, and the sound is a dry, solid clack. You look closer and you see the small, dark holes that betray the presence of weevils, an almost inevitable protein supplement in every sailor's diet. You place the biscuit back in the bin, a deep sense of unease settling in your stomach. The life of your ship, the health and morale of your crew, depends entirely on the contents of this cool, dark room. It depends on the relentless tick of dwindling supplies. From these stores that sustain life, your tour now takes you to the place that holds the power of death. You leave the cool, dusty quiet of the storerooms behind, moving deeper into the ship's lower levels. The air changes again. The scent of provisions fades, replaced by something dry, almost sterile, with a faint chemical tang you can't quite place. The lanterns that light the passageway here are different. They are not open flames, but are enclosed in thick glass and recessed into the bulkhead, shining their light through a second pane of glass into the passage. Everything here is designed to manage a single, terrifying risk: You are approaching the powder magazine, the ship's violent heart. You stop well short of the entrance, a heavy door sheathed in copper. You notice that there are no iron or steel fittings anywhere near here. Every nailhead, every hinge, every fastening is made of copper or brass, metals that will not strike a spark. The ship's gunner, a man with a steady gaze and an air of immense quiet competence, meets you here. He himself is not wearing boots, but soft felt slippers, as does every man who works in this sacred, deadly space. Every precaution is taken to prevent a single spark of doom. He gives you his report in a low, respectful voice. The powder barrels are secure, the cartridges are dry. The temperature within is stable. You nod, listening intently. You do not ask to enter. No one enters the magazine except the gunner and his trusted crew. But you can feel it, even from here. A palpable sense of immense volatile power sleeping just on the other side of that wooden wall. Tons and tons of black powder, waiting patiently in its barrels. A sleeping dragon. You think about what would happen if the precautions failed. If a careless man dropped a steel tool. If a lantern shattered. If a fire from a battle reached this deep into the ship. It would not be a fire. It would be an instantaneous, unimaginable annihilation. The ship would not burn, it would cease to exist. A blinding flash, a deafening roar, and the entire vessel, the wood, the cannons, the sails, and every one of the 500 souls aboard would be blasted into a cloud of smoke and splinters. It is the ultimate, unthinkable catastrophe for a wooden ship, a covenant with disaster that you enter into every single day. You look at the calm, professional face of the gunner, a man who spends his working hours in the most dangerous room on Earth, and you feel a profound respect. Your entire world, this floating fortress, is built around this core of controlled violence. It is both the source of your strength and your greatest, most immediate vulnerability. It is a floating bomb, and you are its warden. With another nod, to the gunner, you turn away, the sense of contained energy seeming to press at your back. The tour must continue to its final, lowest destination. From the clean, dry danger of the ship's heart of destruction, you now descend toward its gut, to its most primal and foulest level. Leaving the tense, sterile quiet of the magazine's passage behind, you make your final descent. The ladder here is steep and slick with a perpetual dampness. You are going down into the very gut of the ship, to its lowest and most primal level. The air grows cooler, heavier, and a new smell begins to rise up to meet you. It is a scent so foul, so thick and ancient, that it makes the crowded air of the gun deck seem like a fresh meadow breeze. You steel yourself, and you step off the ladder into the cable tier. This is the breath of the bilge. It is a complex and deeply unpleasant odor, a damp, sour cocktail of stagnant seawater, rotting wood, mildew, and the collected filth of the entire ship that has trickled down to this lowest point. It is the smell of decay, of the constant losing battle that this ship is fighting against the sea. It is the smell of the abyss itself. Your lantern casts a small, flickering circle of light in the oppressive gloom. As your eyes adjust, you see them. Coiled in the darkness like enormous sleeping sea serpents are the ship's anchor cables. They are immense. Each link of the thick, tarred rope is as thick as your thigh, and the sheer scale of them is hard to comprehend. These are the tethers that connect your wooden world to the solid land. Yet down here, they look like something alien, something that belongs to the deep. They are damp to the touch, and they smell of the ocean floor, of mud and rot from a dozen foreign harbors, a smell of rot and memory. You are well below the waterline now, and you can hear the constant, intimate sound of the ocean sloshing and gurgling just on the other side of the hull. It feels as if the ship is breathing with the... See, in this dark, foul space is its stomach. The floor here is sticky, and you watch your step carefully. This space, more than any other, reminds you that your ship is not an immortal fortress. It is a complex organic thing made of wood, and like all organic things, it is in a constant state of breaking down. The bilge water that sloshes just beneath these floorboards is the physical evidence of that slow death. It must be constantly pumped out, a relentless chore that is as vital as trimming the sails. You have seen enough. You have inspected your ship from its highest point to its lowest. You have felt its power, its complexity, and now its vulnerability. A deep, visceral unease settles in you, a feeling born of this foul air and oppressive darkness. It is time to return to the world of men, to the light. You turn your back on the coiled serpents and the smell of decay and begin your slow climb back up, leaving the gut of the ship behind. The inspection is over, but the challenges of the day, they are just beginning. You finally emerge back onto the main deck, climbing the last ladder out of the ship's lower levels and into the bright, clean air of the afternoon. You take a deep breath, trying to purge the foul memory of the bilge from your lungs and mind. The physical inspection is complete. You have a sense of your ship's readiness, its strengths, and its vulnerabilities. Now, the afternoon stretches before you, and you know the challenges will shift from the ship's hardware to its complex human software. You retreat to the relative sanctuary of your cabin, the door closing on the sounds of the deck. You are hoping for a few moments of peace, a chance to process the morning's tour, but it is not to be. A firm, formal knock comes at the door. It is your first lieutenant, Mr. Howard, requesting an audience. He enters, his posture as impeccable as ever, and waits for you to acknowledge him. There is a new subtle tension in his bearing. This is not a routine report. You are no longer just a captain inspecting a ship. You are now an arbiter, a judge. This is a different kind of test. Sir, he begins, his tone carefully neutral. A matter has arisen concerning the sailing master's instruction of the midshipmen. He proceeds to lay out a minor but delicate dispute. The sailing master, a deeply experienced but non-commissioned warrant officer, feels the younger lieutenants are encroaching on his traditional duty of teaching the boys practical navigation and seamanship. One of the lieutenants, an ambitious young man from a good family, feels the boys' time would be better spent on gunnery and preparation for combat, the skills that lead to promotion. It is a classic conflict between the old ways and the new, between practical experience and commissioned ambition. As you listen, you are not just hearing the words. You are playing a complex game of chess in your mind. The sailing master is vital to the safe navigation of the ship. His goodwill is essential. To alienate him would be foolish. The lieutenants, however, are the future of the Navy, and they are the core of your command structure in battle. To dismiss their concerns would be to foster resentment in the wardroom, your officer's mess. You study your first lieutenants, face as he speaks, trying to read the subtext. Is he merely reporting the issue, or is he subtly advocating for one side? You see nothing but professional detachment. He is testing you, too, seeing how you will handle this delicate balance of the wardroom. You let the silence hang in the air for a moment after he has finished, letting both him and the unseen parties of the dispute feel the weight of your consideration. You could issue a direct order, siding with one and angering the other. You could try to force a compromise that satisfies no one. Instead, you choose a different path. The master's experience is invaluable, you say, your voice calm and measured, as is the lieutenant's focus on the ship's readiness for action. Both are correct. You pause. Have the master continue with his practical instruction in the mornings. The afternoons will be reserved for the lieutenants to drill the young gentlemen in their duties at quarters. I will observe both sessions myself over the coming week. It is a simple solution, but it is not a solution. It is a judgment. You have validated both parties while simultaneously reasserting your own total authority over the ship's schedule. You have not given ground, but you have created balance. And by adding that, you will observe. You have reminded them all that they are under your constant watchful eye. Aye, sir, the lieutenant says, a flicker of what might be respect in his eyes. I will inform them. He salutes, turns, and leaves you once again in the quiet of your cabin. You let out a slow breath you didn't realize you were holding. You have navigated the first treacherous current of shipboard politics. But as you stand there, the quiet of the ship is suddenly shattered by a new sound, a cry of piercing urgency from high above. a sound that changes everything. The quiet of your cabin is shattered. It is not a knock this time, but a distant, high-pitched cry, a sound that slices through the air and the very timbers of the ship, a sound designed to carry over the roar of a gale. It is the voice of the lookout, perched 100 feet above the deck at the top of the mast. Sail ho! Instantly, the entire atmosphere of the ship changes. The low thrum of routine work ceases, replaced by a tense electric hum of anticipation. You grab your long brass telescope from its cradle on the wall and stride out onto the quarterdeck. Your heart suddenly pounding against your ribs. All eyes are on you. Your officers are already looking towards you, awaiting your lead. You bring the telescope to your eye, the cold metal a familiar weight in your hands. You brace it against a mast to steady your view, and the world resolves into a small swimming circle of blue. You sweep the horizon, searching. The sea is vast and empty, and then you see it. A tiny, vertical line, a mere splinter on the horizon, miles away. It is nothing more than a colorless smudge, a momentary imperfection in the clean line where sea meets sky. But it is a ship. And, in this world, an unknown ship is a question that demands an answer. You try to steady the lens, to coax a clearer image from the haze and distance. The cold eye of the telescope reveals little more. The sail is square-rigged. That much is clear. But what kind? A frigate, fast and dangerous? A heavy, slow merchantman? Its hold perhaps filled with valuable cargo? Or is it a lure? The bait for a trap with heavier ships waiting just over the horizon? And so begins the terrible calculus of a chase. An intense arithmetic of risk that you must solve in a matter of moments. Your mind races through the variables. The weather is fair for now, the wind is steady. Your ship is in good condition, your crew is capable. Chasing the sail could mean glory. It could mean prize money, a fortune that would change the lives of every man on this ship. It could be the very reason you are out here. But it could also mean disaster. A chase could pull you far from your designated station, earning you the wrath of the Admiralty. It could lead you into the path of a superior enemy force. A sudden squall could damage your masts or rigging, leaving you vulnerable, hundreds of miles from a friendly port. You lower the telescope, the distant splinter of a ship still burned into your mind's eye. You look at the eager, questioning faces of your officers. You look at the crew, paused at their tasks, waiting for the word that will define their afternoon, and perhaps their future. The decision is yours alone. The weight of it is immense. You weigh the faint hope of glory against the concrete risks. And you make your choice. You turn to your first lieutenant, your voice now clear and strong, cutting through the wind. "Mr. Howard," you command. "Set top gallants, make all sail in chase." The words are like a spark in a powder trail. The lieutenant's face breaks into a grin. "Aye, sir," he barks, and turns to relay the orders. Instantly, the ship comes alive. Officers shout commands. The bosun's whistle shrieks across the deck, and the crew, who moments ago were performing their slow, routine tasks, now swarm into the rigging with a breathtaking speed and agility. They are a blur of motion, climbing the ropes, scurrying out onto the yards to unleash more canvas to the wind. You feel a deep, powerful surge through the deck as the new sails catch the wind. The ship seems to lean into its task, a great beast awakening from its slumber. The rhythmic creaking of the timbers quickens. The sound of the water rushing past the hull grows louder, faster. You are committed. You have thrown the dice, and now hundreds of lives are riding on your judgment. But the chase is a multi-hour affair. And while the ship is now set on its new urgent course, your attention is about to be called away to another, more immediate and deeply unpleasant duty. The ship surges forward, a powerful, living thing, heeling slightly under the press of its new sails. A low hum of excitement runs through the crew as they work, their eyes constantly glancing towards the horizon, towards the distant, unknown sail you now hunt. The thrill of the chase is a palpable energy in the air, a welcome break from the monotony of the long voyage. But this energy is about to be shattered. A sharp, piercing trill from the bosun's whistle cuts through the air, followed by a call that every man aboard dreads. All hands to witness punishment. The change is instantaneous. The excited chatter dies. The confident movements of the sailors become sullen, their faces closing down into expressions of grim resignation. They abandon their tasks and begin to assemble in the ship's waist, forming a silent hollow square. The Marines appear, their red coats a formal bloody gash against the blue and gray of the sea and sky, their muskets held at present arms. The officers take their places. You move to the break of the quarterdeck looking down upon the assembly. This is the grim theater of discipline, and you are its unwilling director. Two burly master-at-arms march a single seaman into the center of the square. He is young, his face pale with fear. He stands before you and the formal process begins. The master-at-arms, in a loud, monotone voice that carries across the deck, reads the charge. Theft. The sailor is accused of stealing a silver locket from another man's sea chest. You look down at the accused man, then out at the silent, watching sea of faces. Your modern soul, the part of you that still remembers a different world with different rules, screams in protest. But you are not in that world. You are here. You nod to your first lieutenant. He opens a book and begins to read from the articles of war, the ancient ironclad laws of the Navy. His voice is steady as he reads the section on theft, the words speaking of the absolute necessity of order and trust in this isolated wooden world. The reading feels like a death knell, a legalistic ritual that removes all possibility of mercy. The law is the law. There is no appeal. When he is finished, all eyes turn to you. They are waiting. The entire ship is waiting. You feel powerless, a cog in a brutal machine you are forced to operate. You look at the young man's terrified face, and then you look at the unforgiving faces of the older, hardened sailors watching you. They need to see justice done. They need to see that the rules apply to all, that their small world is not lawless. Your authority, your very command rests on this moment. You force the words from your throat and they feel like stones in your mouth. The sentence is, 12 lashes. A collective silent exhale seems to pass through the crew. The sentence is passed. The ritual must now be completed. The young sailor is stripped to the waist, his thin, pale back exposed to the afternoon sun. He is led to a wooden grating that has been lashed to the rigging, and his hands and feet are tied fast. You stand motionless, your face a mask of iron. You feel the hundreds of eyes on you, not on the man at the grating. They are watching you, judging your resolve. You cannot flinch. You cannot look away. This is part of the price of the gold on your collar. The bosun's mate steps forward, holding the cat o' nine tails, its 9 knotted cords dangling loosely. The deck falls into an almost supernatural silence, broken only by the creak of the ship's timbers and the distant cry of a seabird. Your first lieutenant gives a sharp, almost imperceptible nod. The bosun's mate swings the cat. You hear it, more than you see it, a sound unlike any other. Not a sharp crack, but a heavy, sickening, wet snap of the lash. A sound that speaks of deep, brutal impact against flesh. The young man lets out a strangled cry. The master-at-arms, his voice like a steady drumbeat, calls out, 1. Again the whistle of the cat through the air, and that same, terrible sound. 2. You watch, your stomach churning, your hands clenched into fists behind your back. Each number is a hammer blow to your own conscience. By the count of 6, the man is silent, biting down on a piece of leather to keep from screaming. By the count of 10, you feel a profound, soul-deep weariness. This is what it takes. This is the cost of order. 12. The final lash falls. A profound silence hangs over the deck. The man is cut down, his back a ruin. The surgeon and his mate, who have been waiting, step forward to help him away. The crew is dismissed. They disperse without a word. Their faces grim, the excitement of the chase utterly extinguished. You are left standing on the quarterdeck, feeling more alone than you have ever felt in your life. The thrill of command is gone, replaced by the cold, metallic taste of its true price. And in that moment, you feel a desperate need to wash this horror away, to connect with something that represents not the grim present but the future. The grim silence on the quarterdeck feels like a stain. The ship continues its purposeful chase, slicing through the waves, but the energy is gone, replaced by a sullen, heavy atmosphere. The brutal ritual of discipline has left a cold hollowness in your soul, and you feel a desperate, unspoken need to connect with something constructive, to build rather than to break. You need to remind yourself that your role is not only that of a judge and executioner. Your eyes scan the deck and fall upon a small group of midshipmen clustered near the rail, speaking in hushed tones. They are the youngest of your officers, boys sent to sea to learn the harsh trade of command. They are the ship's future. You raise your voice just enough to carry. "Mr. Finch, a word if you please." A boy detaches himself from the group, his head snapping up in alarm. He is small for his age, perhaps 12 or 13 years old, and the smart blue uniform he wears is clearly a hand-me-down, the shoulders a little too wide, the sleeves a little too long. He is barely more than a child. He hurries towards you, his eagerness to obey warring with a clear terror of being singled out by the captain. He stops before you, his knuckles white where he grips his hands behind his back, and tries to look professional. You want to put him at ease, but you know that is not your role. Instead, you gesture with your head towards the vast expanse of sea and sky around you. "Mr. Finch," you begin, your voice quieter now, more conversational. "You have been studying your navigation. Tell me, if the wind were to shift 4 points to the south, and we wish to hold our current course, how would you instruct the helmsman to compensate?" It is a simple, practical question. You watch as the boy processes it. The fear in his eyes is replaced by a look of intense concentration. He glances up at the sails, then at the compass binnacle near the ship's wheel, his lips moving silently. He is running the calculation in his head, the textbook lessons coming to life. You would bear up, sir," he says finally, his voice thin but clear, "and order a course correction to port, to counter the southerly set." He looks at you, his eyes wide, waiting for your verdict, and in that moment, you see not just a nervous boy but a fragile flame of potential. He has the knowledge. He just needs the confidence, the experience, the steady hand of a mentor to shape him. You realize with a sudden, profound clarity that your responsibility extends far beyond the safety of this vessel. You are responsible for these boys. They arrive in your care as seeds of the future Navy, and it is your duty to cultivate them, to see if they can grow into the strong oaks the service will one day need. This duty, you feel, is a far greater and more meaningful weight than the one you just endured. You allow a hint of warmth into your own eyes. "You have the right of it, Mr. Finch. Well done." It is all you say, but it is enough. The effect on the boy is instantaneous. The tension flows out of his small frame, and his face is illuminated by a look of such profound relief and beaming pride that he cannot hide it. He looks as though you have just handed him a personal victory. "Thank you, sir," he stammers. "Carry on," you say gently. He gives a clumsy but heartfelt salute and practically scurries back to his friends, his shoulders held a little straighter than before. You watch him go, and the cold knot in your stomach feels looser. For a few moments, this interaction has created a small island of humanity in the vast, lonely ocean of your command. Your attention, lifted from the grim realities of the deck, is now drawn back to the wider world outside the ship, open to what else the day might hold. The afternoon wears on, and the chase becomes a long, monotonous test of will. The initial thrill has faded into the hard work of sailing, of keeping every sail perfectly trimmed, to squeeze every last fraction of a knot from the wind. The ship has become a machine again, and the crew are its tireless operators. The sun beats down, the wind is steady, and the only sounds are the familiar ones. The rhythmic creaking of the hull, the rush of water, and the occasional call of an officer. The distant sail you are pursuing remains just that, a distant, unreachable smudge, and then a new shout goes up. It doesn't come from the lookout high above, but from a sailor at the bow, and it is not a cry of alarm. but one of pure, unadulterated delight. Look there. Heads turn. A ripple of curiosity, not tension, spreads across the deck. You walk towards the bow yourself, your own curiosity piqued by the change in tone. And then you see them. A pod of dolphins has appeared, as if from nowhere. There must be 20 of them, their sleek gray bodies moving through the water with an effortless grace that makes your own mighty ship seem clumsy and slow. They are like flashes of liquid silver in the deep blue of the ocean. They are not just swimming alongside, they are playing. They leap from the water in high, joyful arcs, their bodies catching the afternoon sun. They dive and weave and chase each other, and then they come right up to the ship, racing in the pressure wave that pushes out from the bow. It is as if your vessel is no longer a hunter, but a playmate, a great slow-moving beast they have chosen to dance with. You look at the faces of your crew and you see a transformation. The hard, grim lines of discipline have melted away, replaced by wide, boyish smiles. Men who an hour ago stood in stony silence now point and laugh, calling out to each other. The iron hierarchy of the ship relaxes, forgotten for a moment. Officer standing near you lets out a quiet chuckle. For these few minutes, they are not just sailors. They are men watching a beautiful, spontaneous spectacle of nature. And you feel the corners of your own mouth turn up in a small, private smile that you do not suppress. The heavy mask of command feels lighter, almost transparent. For this brief, precious interval, a shared, unspoken truce settles over the ship. It is not a weapon of war. It is not a floating prison. It is simply a vessel, your vessel, moving through a world of profound and unexpected natural wonder. You let the moment breathe, this brief, beautiful dream. Then, as suddenly as they arrived, they are gone. With a final collective leap, the pod veers away from the bow, heading out into the open ocean, their energy undiminished. They disappear into the vastness of the sea, leaving only the memory of their joy behind. The smiles slowly fade from the sailors' faces. They turn back to their duties, the ship once again a silent, purposeful hunter. But the air feels different, lighter. You are left with a quiet sense of gratitude for that small gift from the sea. As your gaze returns to the distant sail, you notice the sun is beginning to dip lower, its light turning golden. The chase is nearing its end, and you know the day's final martial duty awaits. As the sun dips low towards the horizon, painting the undersides of the clouds in fiery strokes of orange and gold, the long chase finally comes to an end. The distant ship reveals its colors, a neutral merchantman of no interest to you. A quiet sigh of collective disappointment seems to run through the ship as you give the order to stand down. The extra sails are taken in, the crew returns to its normal duties, and the brief dream of prize money and glory fades with the dying light. The day feels as if it is drawing to a close, a gentle descent into the peace of night. But the day's work is not yet done. You turn to your first lieutenant, your voice cutting through the evening calm. "Mr. Howard," you say, "beat to quarters." The order is relayed, and a moment later the evening quiet is shattered by the frantic rolling thunder of the drum. It is not a musical rhythm, it is a call to arms, a sound designed to simulate the panic and urgency of an actual attack. Instantly, the ship, which had been relaxing into the dusk, explodes into controlled chaos. Men pour up from the hatches below, running, never walking, to their assigned battle stations. There is no confusion, only a breathtaking and terrible speed. The slow-moving vessel of the afternoon transforms back into a weapon of war. Your vantage point on the quarterdeck. You watch the scene unfold below. You see the gun crews assemble at their cannons, each man a part of a larger organism. They move with a practiced economy of motion, a grim choreography of war that they have rehearsed hundreds of times. On the shouted commands of their officers, they perform the intricate steps. They sponge out the great gun's barrel, clearing of any imaginary embers. They ram home the powder cartridge and the heavy iron shot. With coordinated heaves on thick ropes, they run the massive cannon out, its blunt snout poking menacingly from the open gun port, ready to spit fire. It is a terrifyingly efficient dance of death. You watch them, and you know that in the deafening, smoke-filled chaos of a real battle, there is no time for thought. There is only time for this dance. These movements must be so deeply ingrained in their muscles, so burned into their muscle memory, that they can perform them perfectly, while wood splinters around them and their friends fall at their sides. This relentless drill is the price of survival. A wave of grim pride washes over you. They are good, they are fast. This well-oiled machine of destruction that you command is a deadly one. But that pride is immediately chased by a cold, prayer-like hope. A deep and fervent wish that you will never have to see them perform this dance for real. You picture this same scene, but with the air filled with the roar of enemy cannons and the screams of wounded men, and the thought makes you feel hollow inside. You hope these practice drills are the only battles they will ever have to fight under your command. Secure the guns. The final command rings out across the deck. The frantic energy subsides as quickly as it began. The crews lash their cannons securely in place, their movements now calm and deliberate. The men are dismissed, and they melt back into the growing shadows. A profound quiet settles over the ship, deeper than before, broken only by the gentle lapping of waves. The sun has now set. The last sliver of light vanishes from the horizon, and the first stars begin to prick the darkness. The day's work for the crew is done, but yours, you know, is not. The lonely vigil of the night is about to begin. You stand on the quarterdeck, leaning against the rail, feeling the deep, bone-weary exhaustion of the long day settle into your very marrow. The ship glides through the water with a soft, rhythmic whisper, a gentle counterpoint to the profound silence that has fallen with the night. The air is cool and clean, and as you look up, the sight that greets you steals what little breath you have left. The sky. Without the haze of land or the glare of city lights, the heavens are revealed in their true, terrifying majesty. The stars are not just scattered points of light. They are a thick, overwhelming blanket of brilliance, a vault of diamonds strewn across black velvet. The Milky Way cuts a vast, luminous path across the sky, not a faint cloud, but a dense river of stars, so bright it seems to have depth and texture. You can see nebulae and star clusters with your naked eye that are invisible from land. It is a sight of such profound, humbling beauty that it makes your ship, your mission, and all your anxieties feel impossibly small and insignificant. It is a peace that is vast and cold and perfect, but it is a peace that cannot last. You hear the soft, respectful tread of boots on the deck behind you. You turn to see the officer of the watch, a young lieutenant named Sinclair, his face illuminated by the dim yellow glow of the single lantern that lights the binnacle. His presence signals the final duty of your day, the ritual of the night orders. He stops before you and waits. You draw your eyes away from the cosmic spectacle and focus on the immediate human world of your command. Your voice is quiet, weary, but clear. "Mr. Sinclair," you begin, "maintain our present course west-southwest. Carry on with the topsails and courses, but if the wind rises above a fresh breeze, you will take in the topgallants. Keep a sharp eye on the weather." You pause, thinking of the falling barometer. "Should the glass fall any further, or should you see any sign of a squall, you will call me." He nods, his expression serious, his eyes focused entirely on you. "And Mr. Sinclair," you add, your voice dropping even lower, "if you sight any sail at any distance, you will call me immediately. Do not hesitate, do you understand?" "Aye, sir. I understand completely." With these few, simple sentences, you are handing him your entire world. The safety of the ship, the lives of every man sleeping below, all of it now rests on his judgment, his skill, his watchfulness. It is a quiet covenant of command, an act of immense faith built on the fragile thread of trust that holds the entire Navy together. You must trust that he is capable. You must trust that he will not fail. And he must trust that your orders are sound. To ensure there is no misunderstanding, he repeats the key orders back to you. "Hold course west-southwest. Take in the topgallants if the wind freshens. Call you for any change in the glass or any sail sighted." "Aye, sir." You nod. Very good, Mr. Sinclair. You have the deck. I have the deck, sir. He salutes. And you return it. He turns and moves to his post near the helmsman, his watch and his responsibility now begun. He is in command now. But you know the truth. The captain is never truly off duty. Your sleep tonight will be light, your subconscious mind forever listening for a change in the ship's rhythm, for the sound of running feet on the deck above, for the urgent knock on your door that signals a crisis. You look up one last time at the river of stars, then turn your back on the vastness of the ocean and walk towards the lonely bubble of light and wood that is your cabin, your only refuge. You close the cabin door, and the profound quiet presses in on you. The only sounds are the rhythmic groans of the ship's timbers, a constant lonely conversation with the sea. The day's exhaustion has settled deep into your bones, but it is your mind that feels the heaviest. You feel a deep, aching need for connection, a desire to bridge the immense, watery distance that separates you from your own life, from the people you love. You sit down wearily at your desk. From a small locked drawer, you pull out a clean sheet of thick paper, a pot of black ink, and a freshly sharpened quill. These are the simple tools that are supposed to connect worlds, to send a part of yourself across the ocean. You place the sheet before you. It is a small, blank rectangle of hope in the flickering, uncertain light of the single lantern that sways with the motion of the ship. You unstop the ink pot and dip the tip of the quill. A perfect dark drop of ink hangs from its point, ready to give form to your thoughts. But you pause. The quill hovers over the page. What can you say? What are you allowed to say? You know that every letter home is a performance. It will be read by your superiors before it is sealed, a casual but absolute form of censorship. It must be a document of confidence, of unwavering resolve. It cannot be a confession. And so you begin to write the real letter, the one that will never touch the page, a ghost of a letter composed only in the silent, desperate confines of your own mind. My dearest, you think the words forming in your heart, you would not recognize. The man I have become. Today was a difficult day. I had to watch a young man be flogged, and I had to stand there and pretend it was just, that it was necessary. But the sound of it? I will never forget that sound. I fear it will live in the timbers of this ship and in my memory forever. I am so tired of the mask I have to wear, this heavy mask of iron that I can never take off. The quill remains poised. Over the paper, an ocean of ink sits in the pot, but not a single drop can be used to tell the truth. There are moments of grace. The silent letter continues. I spoke to a boy today, a midshipman named Finch. He was so young, barely more than a child trying to look like a man. I saw a spark of potential in his eyes, and for a moment, I felt like a teacher instead of a warden. It was the only part of the day that felt truly human. I hope I can protect that spark in him, that this life doesn't crush it out of him as I fear it is crushing it out of me. I feel so utterly alone. The men I command respect me, I think, but they cannot know me. The officers. I can hear their laughter through the walls, but I am a ghost to them, a figure of authority, not a friend. My only companion is the groaning of the ship and the crushing weight of the unsaid. All the words I want to say to you are trapped behind my teeth. This ship smells of tar and rot and dampness. My food tastes of solitude. I miss the simple, miraculous feeling of solid ground beneath my feet. Most of all, I miss the sight of your face. But that is the letter that cannot be. The letter you are supposed to write is short, clipped, and cheerful. My dearest, I trust this finds you well and in good health. The service continues apace. The ship is in good order and the crew are in fine spirits. We press on with our duty and hope for a swift and successful voyage. All my love. You look at the blank page. You try to form the first line of that. Simple, hollow lie. But your hand will not move. Your fingers feel tight around the quill. The chasm between the truth in your heart and the fiction required for the page is too vast to cross tonight. Slowly, carefully, As if it has become incredibly heavy, you place the quill back on its stand beside the ink pot. You push the pristine, unblemished sheet of paper away. There is nothing to say. There is everything to say, and so there is nothing. Unable to write, you rise from the desk and walk towards the dark stern windows, seeking a different kind of solace. You turn from the desk and the blank accusing sheet of paper. Drawn by an unseen force, you walk the few paces to the stern windows, the great windows that form the back wall of your cabin. You place your hands on the cool glass, peering out into the absolute darkness of the night at sea. Directly below, the ship's passage through the water creates a vision of strange and silent beauty. The churning of the rudder in the wake of the hull disturbed tiny living things in the water, causing them to glow with a faint ethereal light. It is a trail of liquid light, a milky phosphorescent river that your ship spills into the darkness behind it, the only evidence of your passage. It is beautiful. And then your mind considers what lies beneath that shimmering surface. You are floating on a mile of dark, cold, indifferent ocean, a world of crushing pressure and absolute blackness, home to creatures you cannot imagine. A realm that would swallow your ship whole without a thought, without a trace. It is an abyss of terrifying scale. Then, you lift your gaze. Above the glowing trail of the wake and the blackness of the sea is the overwhelming infinity of the stars. The silent, perfect clockwork of the cosmos turns above you. You see constellations you recognize and vast, dense star fields you do not. You see the faint, smudgy light of other galaxies, so far away that the light you are seeing now began its journey long before this ship, or any ship, was ever built. In this moment, you feel your own profound smallness, and the smallness of this vessel you command, this entire world of wood and rope and cannon, this floating society of 500 souls. It is nothing. A tiny, fragile spark of warmth and life, a single speck of dust adrift in an incomprehensible, silent void. The feeling that settles on you is not fear, not exactly. It is a kind of weary, philosophical awe. All the day's anxieties, the chase, the discipline, the politics of the wardroom, they all seem so insignificant when measured against this backdrop of cosmic indifference. What does it mean to be the king of this tiny wooden island, when your island is adrift in an ocean of stars? The responsibility is still yours, the weight is still on your shoulders, but here, in the face of infinity, it is imbued with a sense of profound, humbling perspective. You are a temporary caretaker of a fragile spark, and that is all. Your gaze, heavy with thought, eventually drifts from the cosmos and back into the small, man-made world of your cabin. You turn from the window, the single lantern hanging from a beam sways with the ship's rhythm, casting long, dancing shadows that twist and retreat into the corners of the room. The light makes the familiar space seem strange, haunted, and in the flickering gloom, you have the sudden, powerful feeling that you are not alone. You imagine the other captains who have commanded this very ship, who have stood in this very spot, staring out at this same eternal sea, a lineage of ghosts. You picture them, a stern-faced veteran of other wars, his face a mask of iron, a young, ambitious captain on his first command, filled with the same mix of pride and terror that you feel. You imagine them pacing this very deck, poring over charts at this very table, sleeping in the same narrow cot. They knew this room. They knew its groans, its leaks, the way the light falls in the morning. They too felt the crushing weight of a loneliness so profound it has no words. They celebrated victories in this room, drinking a quiet glass of wine in triumph. And they nursed defeats here, staring into the darkness, wrestling with their mistakes. You run your hand along the wooden wall of the cabin. The wood is cool and solid beneath your fingers. It feels ancient. It is the silent witness of the wood. You realize that the very timbers of this ship are soaked in the history of those other men, in their fears and their hopes, their quiet desperation and their fleeting joys. They all wore this same shared and heavy crown. And in that moment, your own crushing loneliness feels different. It is not lessened, but it is no longer unique. You are simply the next in a long, unbroken line of solitary men, each fighting their own battles in this same small, floating world. You are not the first to feel this way, and you will not be the last. This thought, this connection to a shared past offers a strange and somber kind of comfort. Finally, bone-weary and emotionally drained from the long day and the long night, you know there is nothing left to do. You must try to sleep. You turn from the stern windows, from the silent judgment of the stars and the ghosts of your own making. The day has been won, simply by surviving it. There is nothing left to do, no more decisions to make until the sun returns. You must try to sleep. You do not undress completely. A captain must always be ready. You shrug off the heavy, formal weight of your uniform coat, draping it carefully over a chair. You unbuckle your sword belt, the heaviest weight of all, and place it on the desk, still within arm's reach. Still wearing your shirt and breeches, you lie down on the narrow cot and pull a coarse wool blanket over you. You close your eyes, but the darkness behind your eyelids is not empty. It is filled with the day's images, the stark white of the distant sail, the tight-lipped face of the sailor at the grating, the hopeful smile of young Mr. Finch, the endless rolling gray of the sea. Your mind is still active, still turning, over the 1,000 tiny moments of the day, weighing and judging. So you let the images fade, and you begin to listen. You let go of thought, and you sink into the sound. This is the ship's lullaby. First there is the long, low groan of ancient wood, a deep and resonant sigh as the massive timbers of the hull flex and settle into the arms of the sea. It is the voice of the ship itself, speaking its own sleepy language. Then, beneath that, you hear the steady rhythmic creaking of the rudder post as the helmsman holds his course. It is the heartbeat of the rudder, the slow, steady pulse of your ship, a constant reassurance that you are not adrift, that you are still on your way. From far away on the deck above, so faint you can barely hear it, comes the musical cry of the watch ringing the ship's bell, followed by the call, "2 bells, and all's well." The words are a comforting echo, a promise that someone is watching while you rest, that the ship is safe, and always there is the softest sound of all. The gentle shush, shush, shush of the water, lapping and whispering against the hull just inches from your head. It is the ocean, your great adversary, now murmuring a gentle song. These are the sounds that would keep a landsman awake with fear, the noises of a vessel under strain. But to you, they are the sounds of safety, the sounds of survival. You let them wash over you, the deep groan of the wood, the steady creak of the rudder, the distant reassuring call of the watch, the gentle shush of the water. You feel your thoughts finally begin to dissolve, your body growing heavy, the sharp edges of the day finally softening, blurring into the peaceful, welcoming dark. You are sinking into the sound, sinking into a deep and exhausted, uneasy sleep. And as the captain sleeps his uneasy sleep, rocked by the ocean, you can let that world begin to fade. Let the ship dissolve back into the mists of history. The gentle, rolling motion of the sea can now become the solid, comforting stillness of your own bed beneath you. Feel how steady it is, how safe. The constant creaking of the ship's timbers softens, replaced by the familiar, peaceful quiet of your own room. The air you breathe is no longer sharp with the scent of tar and salt, but is now the clean, calm air of your own space. You can let go of the responsibility of the cold, of the endless watch. You are safe, you are comfortable, you are back. We have felt just for a moment the impossible weight of that command. We have walked the decks of a world that demanded a kind of strength that is almost unimaginable to us now. The constant low-level anxiety, the profound, unshakable loneliness, the terrible burden of making life and death decisions in a world of profound and constant hardship. It was a life that required a resilience forged in total isolation and the ever-present threat of danger, both from the sea and from other men. The title of our journey tonight was Why You Wouldn't Last a Day. And after walking in those sea-worn boots, we can see the truth in that. But it is not because you are weak. It is because your world, thankfully, has taught you a different, gentler kind of strength. It has taught you that collaboration is better than isolation, that comfort is a right, not a privilege, and that empathy is not a weakness to be hidden, but a virtue to be shared. And that gentler world is the one you are in right now. So take a moment to appreciate its simple, profound comforts. Feel the softness of your pillow beneath your head. Notice the quiet, steady peace of your room, a silence born of safety, not of loneliness. Feel the freedom from such a crushing, all-consuming responsibility. There is a deep comfort in the security of our modern world, a quiet peace that those sailors and their lonely captain could only have dreamed of. Let that gratitude settle over you like a warm blanket. Thank you for taking this journey with me tonight. I hope it has been a fascinating and deeply restful experience for you. You can let it all go now. Let go of the rolling sea and the watchful stars. Let go of the heavy uniform and the lonely captain. Let your own mind be calm and clear. Your watch is over. May your night be filled with an easy peace, and may you drift off now into the deep and restorative sleep that you so richly deserve. Rest well.